Chapter 6. The King Beneath the Mountain. I lay there on the cold stone, breathing hard, eyes fixed on the space ahead. The core I had taken from the previous puzzle room crackled in my hands, still laced with a faint electric bite that made my fingers twitch, so I wrapped it quickly in my jacket, the glow bleeding through the fabric and giving me just enough light to see. We were still under the mountain, but this place didn't feel like it. The chamber ahead stretched out into a long, open hall, rows of thick stone pillars marching toward a raised platform at the far end. "Right," I muttered while standing up. "Let's see who's home." My boots scraped as I stepped forward, the sound echoing back. From the doorway, the hall had seemed grand, but as I moved deeper, that feeling wore off quickly. Dust coated everything. Broken stone lay scattered across the floor, and sections of the ceiling had collapsed. A loose slab rolled under my boot and nearly took me with it. I caught myself and looked down at what I'd stepped on. The shape wasn't right. I crouched and leaned in closer. Not just stone. A hand, a golem's hand. I stood and looked out across the room again. Stone body pieces were scattered all around me, a graveyard of them, too many to count at a glance. I moved through them more carefully now, placing each step with intention as I made my way toward the end of the hall, toward a raised stone platform, a dais. The platform itself was empty. There was no throne, no seat of power waiting at the center of it. As I moved closer, the light from the core crept across the wall, catching on something that wasn't flat, a ridge, then a curve, a nose taking shape where there shouldn't have been one, a cheek, a jawline. I slowed without meaning to. It wasn't a wall, it was a stone face. A massive one, taking up the entire surface of the wall, easily 2 stories tall, fused into the rock itself, its upper body partially exposed, while the rest of it disappeared into the mountain behind it. The stone head lay half buried in the wall, one closed eye turned out into the room. Chains ran across the figure, thick and deeply set into the surrounding rock, stretched tight across its brow and neck, holding it in place with a weight that felt excessive even for something that size. I stood there longer than I meant to, trying to take in the scale of it. Then my identity skill flickered to life, a nameplate snapping into existence above the massive head, a hovering tag that marked what I was looking at. Golem King, level unknown, trapped. I let out a slow breath. I'm hoping you're just decoration and not going to actually wake up. Nothing. My arms started to ache. I crouched and set the core down on a flat slab. The moment the weight left my grip, something moved. I looked up. The eyelid began to part, dragging open with a slow, grinding weight until a single eye was revealed beneath. A cloudy eye looked out, unfocused at first, moving across the hall without direction, as though this stone king was still waking. Its gaze passed over the row of pillars and the scattered remains in the hall. Then it widened slightly, its focus tightening as it recognized a small figure standing before it. Then it found me. "Hi," I said, quieter than I meant to. The giant king's mouth moved, stone grinding.
"Few reach this place, fewer still stand," the Golem King said. "Tell me your name." "I'm Lukas," I said. "Lukas," the Golem King repeated, dragging the name out as if testing it. I didn't look away. "I was looking for ore," I said. "There's a village above us under attack. If you've got a weapon, a skill, anything useful, I'd love to borrow it." The king's eye lifted slightly, narrowing as if looking through the stone to where the village lay above. "I can feel them," the king said, "an army breaking upon their walls. I am bound, chained, left to endure beneath this mountain." A pause. "My children lie broken around you. You want power? Then rebuild them," the king said. "Give them form, give them purpose. March an army of my stone children upon the surface." I let out a breath, looking up at the Titan. The feral golem in the mine shaft, the one I'd run from, came back to me, the thing terrifying even to look at. If I had an army of those things, I could save the village, and more. Which meant there was a catch. "So what?" I said. "You're just handing me an army?" "I offer power, Lukas. Take it or do not," the king said matter-of-factly. "I require one to lead them, one to command." I narrowed my eyes. "That's it?" The king didn't blink. "Yeah, no, I needed more than that." "How did you end up like this?" I asked, "trapped down here?" The king's eye narrowed, like he was deciding whether I was worth answering. Then, apparently making up his mind, he continued. "Long ago, a hero came. He brought with him a sickness, a darkness. He sought to place it upon me, and when I refused, he bound me to this mountain." The eye held on me, steady and unblinking. "I endured," the king continued. "I remain." A brief pause settled between us before the tone shifted, quieter, more deliberate. "I have enough to help you, Lukas. Help me." I didn't answer straight away. My gaze drifted across the hall, over the broken golems scattered around the throne room, then to the core I'd taken from the room before this one. None of it felt random anymore. This was a game. Of course it was. I'd come down into the mine looking for something, anything to help the village, and this was what it gave me. Pieces, a solution I had to build myself. What was the alternative? Walk away? Go back up empty-handed and hope the wall held? Yeah, no, that wasn't happening. I needed something now. "Gather the stone, Lukas," the king said. "Bring me my children, and we will shape them anew. The first will lead, guide, awaken." I rubbed a hand over my face. Manual labor, of course.
I climbed down from the dais and got to work, dragging stone limbs from the scattered wreckage back up onto the platform. Each piece fought me, dense, awkward, heavier than it had any right to be. My shoulders burned, my hands slipped on dust-slick surfaces, and sweat started to build down my back despite the cold, still air pressing in from every side. The king watched without a word as the pile took shape. "Make the first broad," the king said at last. "Full, heavy set." "I feel like you're describing my dream woman," I muttered, hauling another chunk into place, but got no reaction from the king. I needed a sidekick to laugh at my jokes. I started fitting the pieces together, turning them, testing joins, trying to make mismatched edges work. Nothing sat clean. Stone scraped and resisted. Every adjustment fixed one problem and created another. I felt the gaze of the king, judging me. I built the legs first, short, thick, set wide for balance. Then the torso, heavy, never quite sitting straight no matter how I shifted it. Arms next, uneven but solid. The head was simple, a single block with shallow eye divots. I set the head in place and left it there. When I stepped back, breathing harder than I wanted to admit, my creation stood. Crooked, rough, barely 4 feet tall, but it held. The chains around the king shuddered softly as the stone face shifted, something close to approval settling into the expression. "Crude," the king said. I wiped the dust from my hands. "We've got a body," I said. "Now what?" The king opened his mouth, revealing a black core buried deep, swallowing the light and dulling everything around it. I glanced down at the core I'd brought. Same size, same shape. "You've got one too," I said. The king's eye didn't move from my face. "You will not need that empty heart," voice low and certain, like the decision had already been made without me. "It is hollow, mindless. Place mine within the construct, and I will give it purpose, knowledge, will." The stone along the king's jaw began to shift, grinding as his mouth opened wider, far enough for someone to climb in and get the dark core. I let out a breath through my nose. "In for a penny," I muttered, already stepping forward before I could think too hard about it. I braced one boot against the king's lower lip and hauled myself up, the stone cold and uneven underfoot. I leaned in past the teeth and reached into the hollow space beyond, stretching further than felt comfortable as my fingers searched for purchase around the dark core. "Got it," I muttered. The dark core resisted just for a moment, like it didn't want to come free, and then it shifted with a low, reluctant grind, heavier than it had any right to be, as I pulled it out and dropped back down to the dais, just as the king's mouth began to close behind me. "Place it," the king said. I didn't answer, already turning toward the construct, pressing the dark core into the opening in the golem's chest. I felt the stone resist for a moment before giving way and taking it, a low grinding running through its small body as the limbs pulled tighter together. The hollow eye sockets slowly filled with a dark glow, building until they held steady, and then the golem turned its head and faced me.
The king laughed, the sound rolling out through the hall as the chains binding him rattled under the force of it. "After so long," he said, voice rising with something that no longer even tried to hide what sat underneath it. "The first of my children walks again." I glanced up at him, already feeling that shift in tone. "That sounds promising," I said carefully. "I'll just take my stone friend and—" "You, Lukas." The words cut across mine, heavier now, pressing in from all sides. "You, too, will be remade." I didn't even get time to react properly before the construct moved, its hand closing around my wrist. There it was. Damn it. The king wanted to turn me into one of his Golem puppets. Of course he did. 2 seconds in, and this had already horribly backfired. "Hey," I said, twisting instinctively, trying to pull back. "I'm pretty sure I said I wanted a golem, not I want to be one." "Flesh fails," the king said, calm and absolute. "Stone endures." The golem's grip tightened just enough to make the point. Pain flared up my arm, then something colder followed it. I looked down. The color was draining from my skin, gray spreading out from where the construct held me. Fine cracks traced across my arm as it began to turn to stone, creeping steadily upward. Then it hit me. Not the pain, the mistake. I had just given the Golem King a weapon. The village surged into my mind without warning, Warwick on the wall shouting himself hoarse, Tob slipping in the mud, people holding a line that was already starting to break. "No," I said, the word coming out quieter than I expected, but steady. The cold gray stone continued to envelop my arm. "No, not like this." Then I dropped my weight and threw myself backward, dragging the construct off balance as its footing slipped on the smooth stone of the dais. The grip loosened, just enough. I tore my arm free and twisted away, already moving as the construct pitched forward. Its weight slammed into the stone behind me as I rolled clear, the impact running through the floor instead of me. Something cracked inside it. The core jolted loose, driven back through the hollow of its torso and out through its spine. I was already on my feet. I stepped in, lifted my foot, and brought it down hard. The strike knocked the dark core free, sending it skidding across the stone before it came to rest, still pulsing. The construct collapsed where it fell. Empty. The king roared, the sound tearing through the chamber as he thrashed against his restraints, metal screaming under the strain. Above us, the ceiling gave way. Stones split, then broke, and the first heavy chunks tore free. My vision swam, my ears rang, but I forced myself to move as debris began to fall around me. The construct lay where it had fallen beside me, not moving.
"Come on," I muttered, rolling onto one knee. I spotted the faint blue glow through the dust and pushed toward it, boots slipping as the ground shifted under me. I dropped beside it, grabbed the core and dragged it back, half running, half falling as the ceiling came apart above. I hit the ground beside the construct and drove the core into its chest, forcing it in as the stone resisted, then gave. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The throne room seemed to still around me, and there was nowhere left to go, nothing to show for it. I'd come all this way, bought into this stupid game, told myself it meant something, that I could fix things, that I could reach him, and I couldn't even help a handful of villagers in a world that wasn't real. All that time, all that money, for nothing. My hand stayed pressed against the construct's chest as the weight of it settled in. "Sorry, Kurt. I'm sorry I'm not a better dad." Then a faint blue glow flickered to life inside the construct. Weak, but there. The construct twitched beneath my hands. "Come on," I said, already bracing and hauling, trying to drag the construct upright. "Up! I'm not leaving you behind." The weight fought me, dead stone, unresponsive. Behind me, the king's voice tore through the collapsing chamber as chains screamed under the strain. "If I fall, I will take you with me." "Bit petty," I muttered, digging my heels in and forcing the construct forward. For a moment, nothing. Then something shifted. The construct's leg jerked, caught, then pushed against the ground with a slow, grinding effort. I felt it through my grip. "There you go," I said, breath catching. "That's it. Move." Another step. Uneven, dragging, but movement. The blue glow inside the construct's chest flared a little brighter. "Yes," I said, louder now, a sharp edge of hope cutting through the panic. "Yes, we can do this. Come on, go!" We lurched forward together, one dragging, one learning, as the chamber tore itself apart around us. "Move, you overgrown rock!" I snapped, half laughing, half shouting. "We've got people up there, so move!" The construct's legs found a rhythm. Not right, not steady, but enough. Enough to run. Then the sound changed. A deep, splitting crack rolled through the chamber above us. I looked up. The ceiling wasn't breaking anymore. It was coming down. All of it. I tightened my grip, shoving the construct forward, forcing it toward the exit. "Joe," I said, voice rising. "Get up there. Help the village. Go!" The construct stumbled, caught itself, the glow in its chest burning brighter now. "Please," I said, quieter, pushing harder. "Just go!" The first massive slab tore free above us. I didn't think. I drove my shoulder into the construct and shoved with everything I had. "Go!" The construct surged forward, and I was still there when the ceiling came down. Then, nothing. A soft chime echoed somewhere in the dark. "Congratulations, you have died. Starter village complete."